your email for the link. So
okay, let's have a look for that.
All right.
So that's to the
yeah, the Google one that I'm connecting with here. So I'm guessing you've just got that one open. So let me just connect, send you that link. Come on. Copy. All right. Yeah, as I say, it just takes a couple of minutes to get everything up and going.
No worries. Yeah, still waiting for that link. So
yeah, it should come through any minute now. Let me see. Come on, come on.
But you can't copy the link over Messenger or anything, no?
I don't. I'll try it. Let me know if you've got it. Should have come up.
Oh, hang on, that was something. Stand by.
I'll try again. Let me know if you got it. It's just like a direct link.
So there's nothing in the. Hang on, what's that?
Let me see if I can.
Oh, hang on. There we go. Got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Right. So we got 10.
Oh, hang on. There we go. Got it.
Right now.
Right. Let me.
You got it?
Yeah. Wait. Mute. Right. Good.
There you go. All right, folks, just give us a couple of minutes while we get everything up and running. And yeah, get your questions coming in before I start chatting. I'm guessing a few of you know who Paul already is from past interviews. Right, let me just get this out to social media, Paul, and
sure.
We'll get going. Okay. Can you see the chat? Any people in yet or anything like that? Anything coming in?
Negative. Where would I see that?
On the side, it should be like a.
What, of YouTube?
Yeah, on the YouTube video that I just sent you. Is there anything there?
I can just see me, and then it's got the aircrew interview started streaming 2 minutes ago.
I'll just do a test one. Just saying, did you see that message there?
Got it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's right. Let me get this out to Twitter and everything. Blah, what we at? Send. Send. To send. So what time is it over there for you? Is it later or earlier?
2 minutes past 10.
2 minutes past 10.
Yeah, so we're 3 hours ahead at the moment.
That's not too bad, I suppose.
Yeah, true too. It's all good. It means I can speak to the family before they go to bed. Get the kids up to bed, sort of stuff. Yeah, which is
exactly.
Nice. Got a good collection of prints back there, Mike.
Oh, thank you. Yes, starting to collect a few, but yeah, not too shabby, I suppose. And I guess you can see some thingies coming in at the moment. Can you, Paul?
I can see people saying hello.
Good evening and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Bear with me, folks. Just as you know, I get set up and it just takes a couple of minutes. Delete that. Right. Got you up there. Right. So before I start, how is everyone doing in the chat today? Is everyone decent wherever you are? I know a lot of you from America and anywhere else but the UK. So just let us know how you're doing. Right. I am going to start. Right, so what you'll see, Paul, is you'll see the questions coming in, but as I say, I'm going to do an introduction and introduce you all to Paul. Okay. So, welcome, evening, morning, wherever you all are, and we're having another live Q&A, and we've got a great guest tonight. As you can maybe hear or tell, it's Paul Heasman. Paul is a former Tornado F3 pilot and also Hawk T1 and T2 instructor, and he was also a big part of advancing the Hawk T2 into service today. And I think it's his baby, if I can say that right. Is that correct, Paul?
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And before we start, and get your questions coming in, so if you want to ask anything to Paul about the Hawk or the Tornado F3, get your questions coming in. But I just want to say a big thanks to Simon from Dirty Bird Aero, who kindly sent me one of these shirts today, and great quality, and it's pretty special because it incorporates some aluminium. I think it's from the fin of Tornado F3 ZG797. So if you want to head over to there and check them out, it's well worth doing. And you can go to and check out their t-shirts by going to dirtybird.aero. And they're also on social media. Just search Dirty Bird Aero, and great guys and great quality shirts. So go and check them out. So yeah, hi Paul. We haven't had much chance to chat. So what have you been up to since the last time we talked? I think the interview was in the summer of 2016.
2016, yeah, that's right. It was a long time ago. I've been doing a lot of flying and syllabus design work for BAE Systems, mainly focused on the Middle East region and things like that. So still flying Hawks, still getting plenty of hours on the Hawks, and really enjoying the aircraft, really. On the subject of the T-shirt, I've got one of those too, but it's back in the UK, so unfortunately, no Dirty Bird T-shirt tonight.
But you're also a air-to-air photographer. Can you tell us a bit about how you got into that before the questions come in?
Yeah, I had a little point-and-shoot camera back in 2002, and when that thing finally died, I had a decision between replacing it with another point-and-shoot or actually getting a DSLR, and I made the choice to go and get my first DSLR, which was a Canon EOS 300D, and I haven't really looked back since then. Really enjoy it. I was very fortunate that I was able to take the camera flying in both the F3 and the Royal Air Force were very good to me when I was based at Valley, and I was able to take that thing flying a lot. So yeah, that was great. Had some amazing experiences flying with Typhoons, the Red Arrows a couple of times, various helicopters. Yeah, really great. And it's something that I hope to keep being able to do. Probably not on quite such a prolific sense though.
Yeah, you've had a pretty decent career in terms of photography so far now. A lot of aircraft I'm jealous about. But you're also an author or recent author. Can you tell us about this and where we can actually find your book?
Yeah, certainly. So my daughter at the local school was doing a project on the RF 100, and I was helping her out with it. I was putting together PowerPoints, and just by the way that the PowerPoint fell together and the nature of the project she was doing, we basically had A's for this, B's for that. And you know what? I thought, that could make a book. So I got one printed, and this is a Snapfish photo book, right? It's nothing special at all. And I got it printed via the good people at Snapfish, got 3 of them printed. It cost an absolute bloody fortune. One went to the school, one went to my daughter, one went to my son. And as a result of some of the feedback from the guys and girls at the school and some of the RAF guys who take their kids there, they suggested that I actually get it printed professionally. So I consulted very famous aviation author and photographer Ian Black, who put me onto Blackie, and he put me onto his printing company that he uses, and we got this thing published. So it's a bit smaller, but all the details still there. Employed a designer, so the pages look a bit prettier, but the words are still exactly as per the same. The images are still mine, or a few were supplied by Craig Sleeman, Emma Riley, Andy Shelton, or Kurt Fairhurst. And yeah, that's the book. So it's search for The ABC of the RAF on Amazon, and I'm sure we can get orders out to you before Christmas.
Definitely, and I'll plug all them links for you guys later on in the show, and also via our social media sites. And also, Paul has been very kind to donate a signed copy for our Christmas giveaway. So don't forget to watch that video, and also go and give his page a like, which you'll see later on. So Paul, as you can see, some things coming on the side. So I'm going to let you take over and just answer away. And if you need me, just give me a shout and enjoy, Paul.
Great. So Miko asks, is BFM or ACM still known as the sport of kings among RAF flight instructors? And I caveat all of this with the fact that I haven't been an RAF flight instructor now for pretty much 3 years. Okay, but certainly back in the day, BFM was great fun. It was awesome to be able to go up in the aeroplane and actually, fight a trainee or another instructor or something like that. And yeah, it was very technical. It wasn't just a case of pulling the nose of the airplane as hard as you could towards the bad guy, although quite a few people seem to think it was. And it was, yeah, really, really good fun. Sport of Kings, yeah, it probably is. It's not the most challenging thing you can do in an airplane these days, but yeah, very good fun. Let's see what else we've got. Jude Maloney, no, I haven't got any more book signings planned. Sorry, I misread that. She asks, thanks for the book signing at Valley. Have you got any more books planned? This thing here was very much a vanity exercise on my part. I printed that so that I could see my son and daughter each hold a copy of the book. After that, everything else was, just a bit of a bonus, really. So if people buy it, then that's a bonus. In terms of other books, I have done a reasonable amount of writing. I've got the best part of 55,000 words together on a book that I've been writing since pretty much Q3 of 2015. But working where I am right now, I'm pretty busy. I am currently studying to be an airline pilot, but that might be about a year away. And if I ever get the chance, if I ever get the spare time, then yeah, certainly another book may well be in the offing. But I'm certainly not going to be challenging Ian Black for his title or anything like that. Okay, what else we got? Martin asks, how does the T1 and T2 compare in terms of performance? And then he goes on to say, is the T1 a sports car while the T2 a bit like a muscle car? I was involved in Hawk T2 development from a very, very early stage, really, really early stage. And straight from the get-go, it was very apparent that possibly BAE Systems shouldn't have called the T2 a Hawk. It's got a wing, it's got an engine, it's got a tailplane. It looks kind of like a Hawk, but inside it's very, very different. And performance, to answer the question quickly, it doesn't perform as well as the T1. Okay, it can't pull as much G and it can't sustain as much G, but it can teach our ab initio pilots the basics of a Typhoon intercept, the basics of precision guided weapons employment and planning. It can teach defensive tactics against radar, both surface and air threats. It's a completely different beast. You sit in it, and we've had Typhoon pilots sit in the front seat, and they recognize everything that's going on the radar, everything that's going on the associated systems, because it's designed to lead people in to aircraft like the Typhoon, kind of fourth and maybe one day into fifth gen type cockpits. So very, very different aircraft, and it's unfortunately, like all things flying, it's not a game of top trumps. Just because one aircraft can pull more G than the other or go faster than the other doesn't necessarily make it a better or a worse jet. And the T2, in terms of being a platform to teach future Royal Air Force pilots, is an awesome piece of kit. Really, really good piece of kit. All right, what do we got here? I heard the Hawk. This is a Northern Nightmare. Is that on your birth certificate? I heard the Hawk was used as a point defense fighter. How was it? The T2 certainly is not used as a point defense fighter, and I believe that the T1 no longer has a war role either. I do remember seeing pictures of Hawk T1s in the 80s with Sidewinder missiles under the wing. I can only assume that it would have to be a pretty bad day for that aircraft to actually have to go flying and try to shoot down a Russian or whatever was storming over the horizon. My gut feeling is that armed T1s in a war scenario would be more of a hindrance than a benefit to the UK Armed Forces, but who knows? Hopefully we'll never find out. Flight Lieutenant Nigel Farage, really? What's your opinion on the heavy civilianized system the RAF uses to train its new pilots? A good thing, or is it for the worst? The fact is, it's here, so let's embrace it. Let's make it work. Okay. I saw when I was working with Ascent Flight Training, I saw all of the stress of the military trying to work with a civilian company, and those two relationships harmonizing. Ultimately, though, it is the future that we've been signed up to by our political lords and masters. So let's get on and embrace it. There are some genuinely good things coming out of ascent flight training, and I know that there are other social media junkies who will say quite derogatory and quite negative things. But at the end of the day, it is the future, and let's get on board and support it. Would be my view. All right, what have we got? Martin asks, your thoughts on how the F3 compared to its counterparts while in service? I'll be honest, when my son or daughter asked me what did I fly when I was in the Royal Air Force, to be ruthlessly honest with them, I'd have to tell them I'm a Hawk pilot. I had just over 500 hours on the Tornado F3, 3 years, and it wasn't a very long time at all. I enjoyed my time on the jet. It was quite strange because it was very obvious that the aircraft was coming to the end of its operational life, and yet all of the systems, things like the radar, some of the capabilities of the radar, some of the capabilities of the weapon system were really just being refined and honed. And when it went out of service, it was actually a very, very capable interceptor, I guess. You certainly wouldn't want to get into a turning fight with anything in a Tornado F3, but used correctly, it was a really capable piece of kit. Hope that answers that question. Jude, what does Jude ask? Does the sim at Valley do everything that all T1s do in everyday flying and displaying? Wow. Simulators struggle. I'm sure all simulators struggle to 100% faithfully replicate flying. So the T1 sim is quite old, okay, but it does a reasonable job of preparing pilots for emergency training, basic one sim. Miko asked, did I get to fly in any of the earlier Hawk models like the Mark 51 series? Well, mate, I've got over 800 hours on the Hawk T1, and they don't get much earlier than that. I've got 2 hours in the Mark 51 in the back seat when those guys visited RAF Valley, crikey, 2012, 2013, something like that. And that was quite good fun. It was interesting to see what had gone on in that cockpit and how how that aircraft had been modernized by the Finns. So yeah, I've got quite a lot of time in the legacy Hawks. Craig asks, do you think the RAF will use the Hawk as a force multiplier if needed? He's seen an armed Hawk at Akrotiri back in the 90s. There you go. No, I don't. Simple answer, I do not believe that will happen. What's the highest altitude you went into? I honestly can't remember. Certainly broke the service ceiling in the F3 back when I was flying it down in the Falklands, but I can't even remember what that height was. There you go. Recently, the highest I've been to, so within the last year, was 44,000 feet on an air test in a Hawk, in a 100 series Hawk. And it was quite interesting. It was quite nice. You can see, just make out the curvature of the Earth, which is pretty. Did you have DACT against the Tomcat? No, I did not. I don't know anybody who did, but I'm sure it must have happened. I'm afraid you're going to have to excuse pronunciation. Juha. I'm sorry about that. Did it go against the F-14? No idea. I could imagine it probably didn't do that well, but there we go. Do you think there's merit to the lightweight fighter as a concept, like the Golden Eagle or the F-20 Tiger Shark? That's from John Ellis. From a strength and numbers point of view, possibly, but a light fighter, I mean, let's think about it. It's got to have secure comms, it's got to have a data link, it's got to have a radar, it's got to have defensive aids, it's got to have a decent weapons carriage, and all of a sudden that light fighter doesn't sound that light anymore. You start adding all those things on with the associated testing and release to service work, and that light fighter probably isn't that cheap either. As a concept, I think it's a great idea. I think in reality, I don't think it's a great plan. It's certainly not what the Royal Air Force wants. Okay, Craig asks again, does Brahma still run the Civvy side of Valley? No, it doesn't. When I was there, excuse me. When I was there, it was Babcock. I've got a feeling that BAE Systems was bidding for the contract and may have taken the contract. Not sure. Hi, Paul. Ever fly the Hawk at Red Flag? Negative. Sorry, Ian. They had the Goshawk. The United States had the Goshawk. That's correct. Mike asked, did I ever fly the Hawk from the production line at Brough or have anything to do with its cockpit design? I didn't fly the Hawk from the production line at Brough. I was gutted. I definitely volunteered with every single opportunity, but no, unfortunately, that was just a solo test pilot. So generally either Andy, Nat, or one of those guys. Did I have anything to do with its cockpit design? Yeah, kind of actually. I was very, very lucky as I went through my tour on 19 Squad, and I was selected to be part of the team to bring the Hawk T2 into service. And as part of that, I would routinely, probably once, twice a month, head down to Brough and work with guys like Alvin Fernandez and the RAF requirements manager for the Hawk on what the aircraft should look like. And there are certain button selections on the multifunction displays that are in the jet because I suggested them and members of my team suggested them. So for a junior officer in the Royal Air Force, it's a real treat to be able to know that you've influenced the design of the aircraft like that. Adam Cotton asks, Paul, can you see a time when the RAF has more UAV pilots than aircraft pilots, much like the USAF presently? I honestly couldn't comment in as much as I don't know whether the USAF has more UAV pilots than actual fixed-wing aircraft pilots. Be surprised if it did. I don't know. Possibly. I honestly do not know. Low-flying aircraft tells me that I've gone live while watching Warship Life at Sea. My God, it's either them or me. Hopefully I'm doing okay. Right, Martin asks, what's the difference between the T2 and 100 series of Hawk? 100 simply export designation. Okay, so the 100 series of Hawk includes the Hawk T2. So back in the day, you've got the Hawk 102s and things like that, and they went out to various countries. By the time the RAF was looking for a replacement for the Hawk T1, the numbers had gone from 100, 102, and we were at 128. So the RAF Hawks were initially known as Hawk T128s. Some vagary about the way that RAF designations have to be assigned meant that we couldn't use 128 in service, and so it was called the Hawk T2. But in terms of the development timeline, the RAF Hawk is a Hawk 128. Mark Burgess asks, would I buy a jet fighter? Yeah, if I had enough money, definitely, but there'd be plenty of things I'd buy before that. Paul Barrett asks, evening Paul, what engine does the Hawk have? So the Hawk T2, the T165 and the T166 all have the Rolls-Royce 951 engine, which is the ultimate, currently the ultimate version of the Rolls-Royce and that's a very, very different engine to the engines that the earlier T1s have had. So as the airframe has been improved over the last 40-odd years, then Rolls-Royce and Turbomeca have done a great job of improving the engine too. All right, Nigel again asks, is the GR4 being retired too early? It feels like we're being forced into the F-35AB, which can't employ the weapons the GR4 can. The GR4 is an old airframe that's done a great job. I sincerely believe that retiring the GR4 is the right thing to do. I'll leave it there. Mike says, what was it like flying in the Falklands? When I was based at 460 Port Troop at Mare Harbour, we were used as a landmark for a bomb run of some kind and scared all of the Pongos. Flying in the Falklands was great. It was beautiful, absolutely stunning, beautiful scenery, and some really interesting flying. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the 10 weeks. I only went down there twice, so 10 weeks in total that I had down in the Falklands. James asks, How many QRA shouts did you attend as an F3 pilot, and what, if any, did you intercept? I had loads of QRA shouts, but I'm not going to go into any details about what I intercepted. Not sure what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say there. Okay, Miko asks, is low-level flying still a trademark of RAF pilot training at Valley, as it was back in the Cold War days? Yeah, so flying training at Valley, I remember when I started as a baby Hawk instructor, a Hawk T1 instructor, one of my instructors, very, very experienced instructor, told me that low-level flying is not actually it's not a means to an end in the Hawk. Okay, it's a low-level capacity exercise. Can a pilot operate at low level and still have spare mental capacity? And that's the Hawk T1 way of doing business. So literally tear around with a map and a stopwatch and a compass, 7 miles a minute, don't get lost, and ideally fly over a target on time. Hawk T2 changed that a lot, so we can now introduce synthetic threats, and we can introduce modern mission systems like radar warning receivers, radars, moving maps, things like that. And we can now really max out the trainee pilot using skills and techniques that he or she will use on the front line. So from that point of view, low flying is still a valid exercise. I mean, you put an air force in a certain surface-to-air missile threat, and they're going to have to go to low level. There is no other option. So yeah, low flying is still a valid skill set. It's probably just not as required as it was back in the day. Right. Martin asks, what makes the Hawk such a successful aircraft design and export when compared to the L-39? So the L-39, I believe, is a Czechoslovakian straight-winged, low-wing jet monoplane, jet fighter, fighter trainer. What makes the Hawk so successful? I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for this, but I would probably buy a car manufactured in the UK over a car manufactured in Czechoslovakia. Have I ever flown F-35? Nope. What's the max speed and max G that a Hawk can pull? I think the current 100 series being kicked off the production line are limited to Mach 1.2, and I want to say 8G. Whether they'll actually achieve those things is another matter. Chris Holden asks, do I have any books out on my time or intentions of doing books on my fast jet career? I actually mentioned this earlier, Chris. I have been off and on for the last 3 years writing a book, which is kind of similar to what you're talking about there. It may or may not come to fruition, but if it does, I'll let you know. Craig asks, do we think the Reds will change their mark of Hawks? Honestly, don't know. It'd be very expensive if they did. My view, purely my view, is the Red Arrows worked very well flying the Hawk T1 because the Hawk T1, they were taking whatever it was, 9, 10, 11 aircraft out of a fleet of 100 plus aircraft. Okay, so the fatigue that the Red Arrows were putting on the fleet was kind of spread across a huge fleet of aeroplanes. The RAF currently has 28 Hawk T2s. So to take 10 aircraft out of that, say for the Red Arrows, would mean that, well, first off, you've crippled your flying training. And second off, to rotate those aircraft through the much smaller fleet of 28 aircraft means that we're going to chew through the fatigue hours much quicker. So from that point of view, there would probably need to be a fundamental rethink as to how the Red Arrows were supplied with aircraft, would be my view.
And Paul, while we have you on the Red Arrows, you actually went up flying with them. Can you tell us how this happened? Because I'm quite interested.
Yeah, so the Red Arrows actively recruit every year for pilots for the next set of display seasons. And the way they do that is they open their doors, and any fast jet pilot, this was certainly the case in 2015, who wants to go flying with them, can just arrange to come along for the day and have 2 or 3 flights with the team. And I'll be ruthlessly honest, I've been a fast jet pilot in the Royal Air Force after training for whatever it was, 13 years. And I just, until 2 years before I left the Air Force, I just didn't bother with it. I knew that I would never be good enough to be a Red Arrow. Fact, I've got absolutely no problem saying that. But I didn't ever bother even attempting to go and fly with them. And having flown with them for the first time in 2014, I can honestly say that that's one of the biggest regrets of my Air Force career, that I didn't fly with the Red Arrows more. It was absolutely fascinating to watch not only how they fly, but also how they do business around all the flying operations. So yeah, flew with them in 2014 and 2015, just before I left the service. And I was fortunate that they allowed me to take my camera flying. I'm not sure that would happen now, but took my camera flying, and I was lucky enough to be able to get some reasonably decent photos on both of those occasions. So yeah, it's good.
So you were just speaking there, just why the questions come in. Get the questions coming in, guys. But when you wanted to start, what was your main goal of like what you wanted to fly in the end?
Tornado GR4, bizarrely. So
okay, not the F3.
No, not the F3. No, definitely not. Tornado GR4. I went all the way through Linton and Valley, and got to the end of 19. Well, got into 19 Squadron, which is where you do the air combat and the air to surface training. And I just remember my kind of mental picture of those two streams was that the air combat training, you would pitch up an hour before going flying and do the mission brief, and then go flying, come back and spend maybe 40 minutes in the debrief, and then that was it, mission complete. Whereas for the air to ground training, which would obviously lead on to Tornado GR4, you'd pitch up 3 hours before getting airborne and spend an absolutely frantic, ridiculously frantic 3 hours rushing around, drawing lines on maps, measuring headings, measuring timings, and then, rush out to the jet. It was just frantic. It was hectic. And when I got to the end of the course, and it was the time for us to kind of put down our streaming preferences, I just thought, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. So I very quickly reevaluated my priorities and pushed quite hard for Tornado F3, which is what I got. So I was quite happy with that. All right, missed a few questions. What do we got? Have I ever flown F-35? No, I think I've answered that one. Books, Reds. Did I do any time at RAF Leeming? Yes, I was based at RAF Leeming on 25 Squadron from 2002 to 2005/6. So yeah, based at 25 Squadron. Do you sign any books on Tornado Hawk books? No, I don't. Sorry, Chris. Ian Saxon asks, do the students practice spin recovery in the Hawk? Is it easy to recover? Yeah, it is. Yes, they do. And yes, it is. They practice spin recovery in the Hawk so that they can recover a Hawk if a Hawk loses control. Aircraft like the Tornado, anecdotally, are exceptionally difficult to get out of spins, nigh impossible. An aircraft like the Typhoon, I understand, should not spin. And that should be the same for the F-35 too. The F-35 also. So practicing spin recoveries in the Hawk is purely so that the trainees can recognise when the aircraft has departed controlled flight, and they can centralise the controls, and it flies out really, really easily. It does easily recover. I'm minded that if you were to just let go of the controls in a spin, the aircraft would recover itself. It's not anything horrific like an F-15 being in a spin or anything like that. Northern Nightmare asks, was the Hawk capable of being difficult at close range in air-to-air training? It is a small aeroplane, so that makes seeing it difficult. But whenever Hawks did dissimilar air combat training against things like Typhoon, you've got to remember that the Hawks are painted black in the Royal Air Force. So those things stand out from miles away, whereas the light grey Typhoons tend to blend into the sky. So even just seeing them, seeing the Typhoons can be tricky, whereas conversely, seeing the Hawks can be very, very easy. Is there any aircraft that you wish you would have had the chance to fly? I've got to say the Tomcat. That would have been awesome. Other than that, no, I don't think so. Quite happy with my lot in life. Mike asks, what's it like air-to-air refueling for the first time? Quite stressful, actually. I found it very, very difficult. Probably a reasonable amount of that was a little bit of underconfidence and quite a lot of imposter syndrome. But yeah, I found air-to-air refueling initially quite challenging. Io asks, have you got any tips for CBATs? Sorry, I have absolutely no idea what CBATs is, but good luck with your application process. Okay, Paul Barrett asks, have you got any inside information about RAF leaving? Are the Reds coming, or F-35s or Typhoons? A lot of money is going to be spent there in the next 2 years. Sounds like you know more than me, Paul. I'm afraid I know nothing. Sorry, mate. Miko says, the RAF used to operate the Jet Provost, the Gnat and the Hawk during different phases of pilot training. In view, was all that necessary? I mean, the system was eventually streamlined. Well, yeah, I guess it was, but if you think about it now, so you've got Jet Provost, Gnat and Hawk. Nowadays, you've got Prefect, Texan, currently Tucano, and Hawk. So you've still got 3 aircraft types. And the RAF believes quite strongly that you know, a 3-phase approach to flying training is the way ahead. Other countries do it differently. Swiss do it differently. But yeah, that's the process that the RAF settled on, and it seems to work quite well. Didn't do me any harm. All right, Jude asks, what's the practice maneuver I've seen where 3 Hawks come in, 1 flies off overhead, 1 does a touch and go, and 1 lands? Anything specific? Yes, it is. So that is a close formation mission where we've got 3 aircraft airborne. We've got just an instructor in the lead aeroplane, and then an instructor and a trainee in the 2 aircraft on the wing. And the deal is that we need each of the trainees to see a formation approach and landing. And we can only do that if we split one of the aircraft off early. The other 2 come down low. 1 aircraft lands. So that's one of the trainees out the way. The aircraft with just an instructor in goes off around, and the other trainee joins up with him, and then they subsequently go and do a landing. Hope that makes sense. John Ellis, did you ever scrape up a jet trying to refuel? Thankfully, no, I did not. Mike asks, did I always want to be a pilot? Yes, I did, actually. It's all I ever wanted to be. Thankfully, you know, a little bit of single-mindedness got me to where I am today, I guess. It's not easy, certainly not easy. And I mentioned imposter syndrome before. I still, to this day, whenever I do a check ride, okay, little nasty part of my brain tells me, okay, Paul, this is it. This is the bit where they're going to work out that you're not a pilot and you're going to get kicked out, which is quite funny. But yeah, I did always want to be a pilot.
Brilliant.
Psychology, Mike. It's
psychology. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there you go. Mike asks, did I ever come close to ejecting? Nope, not once. Do you think there will ever be any opportunity for privateers to purchase and display a Tonka Warbird? My gut feeling says no, and then you see the Collins Foundation flying an F4. So maybe, but it's such a horrifically complex aeroplane. I mean, even just the mechanism to sweep the wings and move the flaps supposedly drove the inventor of that mechanism mad. I don't know whether that's true or not. But yeah, it's fantastically complex. So I personally can't see it, but if they can keep an F4 flying, then yeah, maybe they can keep a Tornado flying. All right, okay. CBATs are computer-based aptitudes before they filter interview at OAC. Right, so advice for CBATs. Back in my day, it was just do lots and lots of speed distance time calculations. Get really happy with speed distance time, and practice remembering long numbers. So things like mobile phone numbers and things like that. I seem to remember that being quite important.
And just out of that, sorry, Paul. Does that differ for air-to-air to air-to-ground, or is it both the same?
What's that for?
Learning these long numbers, does it differ?
Oh no, so the question that IO, I guess is the name, was asking was these are the initial tests that you do before you even get to interview to join the Royal Air Force. Sorry. Yeah, so this is years before you ever get to an aeroplane. So no, these are just generic aptitude tests, some of which are aimed at pilots, some at WISOs, some at air traffic controllers, and you just sit and do these batteries of tests, and then a score is spat out at the end, and if your score is high enough, then you make it into the desired stream.
Got ya.
Took me 3 attempts.
You got there.
Yeah, exactly. Did I have any incidents with the airfield at Mona? I did fly there, and the brief had a warning about locals throwing objects at aircraft. Never seen locals throwing objects at aircraft. I once got told off because I was what the heck was it called? The supervisor of flying equivalent at RAF Valley. Can't remember what it's called now. It was in my last year there, and a hawk hit a bird while doing a touch and go at Mona, aborted and took the barrier. And I made the decision to drive down to Mona and have a look at this thing and take a few photos, and got a bit told off for that. So that's the closest I've had to having an incident at the airfield at Mona. Otherwise, no, absolutely fine. Certainly never had anything throwing an object at an aeroplane. That's crazy.
I think you might have missed one at the top, Paul. Jones MM.
Have you had any hair-raising moments in your career or memorable incidents you could share with us? Crikey. Hair-raising moments? No, absolutely not. I've had a very, very boring career. Nothing interesting, scary, dangerous, or anything like that has ever really happened. Memorable moments. It's always nice sending a student solo for the first time. That's quite good. And, you know, additionally, it's always nice when you go flying in an airplane on your own for the first time. The Hawk T2 will be my biggest win, I think, in that I genuinely feel like that aircraft is my baby to a degree. As things stand right now, I think I've got the most hours on that jet of anyone, although there must be people at Valley who are catching me up now. Other memorable moments in the career. It was nice to be involved in the E2R celebrations back in 2012. That was really good. But otherwise, I thoroughly enjoyed my career in the Royal Air Force. Thoroughly enjoyed the flying, and you know, worked with a great set of guys and girls. So yeah, it was good. Right, where are we? Hughes SJA 1975 asks, evening Paul, what are your 3 top tips, either mental maths or checklist items, shortcuts, mnemonics that you could have done that you couldn't have done without flying fast jets? So flying fast jets, the thing that I am a gizzer monster. Okay, so I will make little crib sheets for each mission that I'm going to do, and fly with those. So on the Tornado F3, it was just a raft of numbers with wing sweeps and, you know, maximum speeds, maximum G, so I could remember all the performance figures, all the performance limits for the jet. With the Hawks that I'm flying now and the instruction that I'm doing now, the cheat sheets that I carry basically just reminding me what comes next in the mission. What is the next thing that I've got to teach? How do I have to teach it? So those things work really, really well for me. Since in 2012, I actually went on an aircrew performance coaching course, which is an initiative that the Royal Air Force stuck with for a little while and actually produced some really good results, where I think the Air Force realised that the future of the Royal Air Force fast jet community was single seat, whereas historically we'd always had a large twin seat contingent in the Royal Air Force. So if we're going to bring pilots through, but instead of going to twin seat jets, they're going to all have to go to single seat jets, then we can either A, somehow massively improve the gene pool of the United Kingdom, or B, just train people better. And one of the things that the Royal Air Force came up with was the aircrew performance coaching concept, which leveraged massively off sports psychology. So if you wouldn't think it to look at all aircrew, but aircrew could be compared to high performance athletes in that they're working in regimes of incredibly high stress, incredibly high stakes, where if you make a mistake, you know, it could potentially all go horribly wrong. Very similar to a high performance athlete. And so sports performance coaching was leveraged into the aircrew world as a way of primarily helping people who were failing missions, and then secondly, when it was seen that, you know, the people who would have failed missions and ultimately would have failed courses, when those guys and girls were seen to be passing, then actually the guys and girls who were doing very well on the course wanted some of this performance coaching because that could elevate them to an even higher level. And yeah, aircrew performance coaching was a really good thing. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I have no doubt that if aircrew performance coaching had been in place when I was going through training, then I would have probably had a happier time, I think, during training. It would have genuinely helped me. Performance coaching is something that BAE Systems are looking to bring back in our flying training out here. And I sincerely hope it's given a bit of a chance, because it's a really, really powerful tool. Yeah, John Ellis, yeah, imposter syndrome is quite common, not just with fighter pilots and astronauts, but pretty much anybody, I would suggest. Okay, Jude Maloney, who named Fraggle Rock, pilots or visitors? I would probably guess it was the pilots. I make no apology for that. John Ellis, barrier net for overruns or arrestor hook and cable? Depends on the aircraft. So Tornado, big, fat, heavy Tornado, definitely the cable. Small airplane like the Hawk, then the barrier is the way ahead. Plus, unless you're flying a T-45, then the Hawks don't have arrestor hooks anyway. So the barrier is your only option. The T2 and the later 100 series aircraft, and actually some of the older jets too, are also fitted with brake parachutes. So that's a really powerful way of stopping the airplane. And I've used that a few times, and it works really, really well. How did I find initial officer training? When I went through initial officer training, it was 6 months long, the course. I was on a course that had a lot of ex-University Air Squadron guys on it, so we all thought we knew what was going on. We all thought we were, we all thought it was a bit of an attendance course, and as a result, the directing staff were maybe a little bit harsher than they would have normally been with us. It was fine. Made a lot of good friends, a lot of good times, a lot of smiles. So I can't complain. What was my longest sortie? Must have been a good 5+ hours in an F3, either doing patrols over the Falkland Islands in the unlikely event that one of the ground-based radars went down, or trailing across the pond to or from America. What was the typical loadout of the F3 on QRA? 8 missiles, lots of chaff and flare, and that's about it. Yeah. So when I started, the 8 missiles were 4 ASRAM, 4 Sidewinder, and 4 Skyflash. And by the time I left the jet, it was 4 ASRAM and 4 AMRAM. So quite a capable lot there. Jim Maloney, I'm hoping to enter the VAS photo competition. Any tips, especially for the valley section or static? Do waves go down well? I have absolutely no idea, Jude. I don't think I ever entered the valley photo competition, actually. Generally because it was judged by the RAF Valley photo section, and I didn't always get on very well with those guys. But what would I say? Tips? It used to depress the heck out of me every time I'd walk past the photo competition, and there was that same picture of a Lightning or an F-111 or a Phantom that had been submitted for the previous 15 years. Just do something different, do something new. What are the Hawk's main strengths as a trainer? Hawk's main strengths as a trainer. I think it's got a great reputation, fantastic engine. The engine is awesome. The front cockpit is pretty good, and it's certainly a good lead-in for a Typhoon. And that's, without thinking about it too hard, probably the main bit. The engine, I'd say, is probably the finest part of the aeroplane. How low have I ever flown a Tornado? When not taking off a landing, the lowest I've flown a Tornado is 250 feet MSD. Miko, I think you mentioned that the T2 is limited to 8 Gs. In the 1980s, the Finns used to pull 9 Gs. Check you out, constantly with the Mark 51s. And they got wing cracks quite fast. Is it the same with the new models too? New models are a lot heavier, okay? The new models, you're not going to sustain that level of G, but then that's not the point of the aeroplane. So, yeah, I don't think we'll be seeing 9G out of a a current production Hawk, and BAE Systems at Wharton have got the Advanced Combat Hawk, which is the one that you might see being flown from the back seat with nobody in the front seat. That's got quite a clever wing, and that can sustain a reasonable amount of G at a reasonable altitude. It's quite a good piece of kit. What does the max speed and G pull of the Tornado F3? Asks Paul Barrett. Paul, I wouldn't know. I haven't got my gizzer here anymore, so I have no idea. Hawks do have step cockpits. Yes, they do. And Jude asks, am I looking forward to Christmas? Yes, I am. I fly back to the UK at the end of next week. And yeah, I'm thoroughly looking forward to getting back into the UK for a good few weeks.
So, Paul, just like while we have a few more questions coming for the last few minutes, how many books do you have left? Can people get them before Christmas?
Yeah, they can. So we've probably got 150. There are enough books for anybody who wants a book. There's probably about 150 books left, I would say. I've got 4 of them out here with me. I'm sure they'll disappear too, so I won't be bringing those back. They can get them. The easiest way to get them is to actually just log on to Amazon and search for ABC of the RAF, and you will see that picture, and just order it there. It's not an Amazon Prime one, unfortunately, so you can't get it the next day. But we'll definitely get it to you by Christmas. No problems at all.
I'm brilliant. Where's your Facebook and social places? Where can we find you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, although randomly, phone locked me out of Twitter the other day, so God knows what's going on there. So Instagram, I am this_is_air2air. So by all means, drop by and have a look at that. I haven't thrown anything on Instagram in ages. I've been really, really lazy. And then I'm on Facebook. The book, if you just type ABC of RAF, I think, or ABC of the RAF, you'll find it on Facebook too. And there's a Facebook page for the book. I think you put a link to it further up in this.
I did, and I'll put one further up. But we've got 10 minutes left, so do you want to answer more questions, Paul?
Yeah, let's have a look. If you had been an RAF pilot in World War II, what aircraft would you have liked to have flown other than the Spitfire? Mosquito was pretty good. Twin engines, so survivable. Made of wood, so probably not that survivable. But yeah, fast. So I'd probably say the Mosquito. Unfortunately, we didn't have the clever American Mustang, but that was an awesome aeroplane too. I'd have loved to have flown that from the American point of view. That's from Adam Cotton. Zigzag Ground Zero. Do you think in a real modern AAA cannon missile environment, the Force would survive today and during your tour? So I'm going to interpret that question as, in a modern surface-to-air missile environment, would the Royal Air Force survive? Well, it depends what you're doing. So you wouldn't put a C-17 into an S-400 MES. Okay, it wouldn't survive. But that's the reason, and you wouldn't put a Tornado in there either, but that's the reason that we are buying F-35, so we can go in to those incredibly highly defended areas and take out point targets. So would the Force survive, as in the whole Force? No, it would not. But then you wouldn't put the whole Force in harm's way. You'd use your silver bullets, which are your F-35s. John Ellis, a couple of times they've landed the F-18 from the back seat in emergencies. Landing from the back seat isn't that easy. A trainer like a Hawk is a lot easier. Yeah, it is. A Hawk is a lot easier. It's got the stepped canopy, so you can see over the top and see what's going on. But I'm guessing that the F-18, you know, the instructor in the back seat must have to demonstrate a landing to the trainee in the front seat the first time. So it can't be that difficult. I mean, crikey, on the F3, we had pilot instructors who would sit in the back seat of the twin stick aeroplanes and land the aircraft from the back seat as part of their instructional duties. And that's got to be one of the trickier aeroplanes to fly. So yeah, it's must be totally doable. Craig asks, what do I see for my future? I see probably at some point in the next year, 2 years, taking the plunge and moving over to the airlines, I would suggest. Do you know this? If I got offered the job of a Warbird pilot, would I take it? This is going to sound so cynical, but it would have to pay enough money. I'd love to do the flying, it really would, but I've got a family to support, so maybe not the sole job. Maybe for a bit of fun. Ian asks, what civilian aircraft are you qualified to fly? I'm not qualified to fly anything civilian. Military licenses don't transfer over. I don't have a private pilot's license at the moment, so no, I've got nothing in that respect. Sorry. Jude, are the call signs at Varley always related to the number of hawks for that call sign, if that makes sense? Right, so rewind 2015, which is when I was last at Valley. The call signs, you would either have, each pilot had an individual call sign assigned to them. So for a long time, I was Victor 64, and whenever I was flying on my own, not as part of a formation, and I was the aircraft captain, then I would use the call sign Victor 64. I think I became Victor 04 or 05 towards the end of my career when I moved into a very, very rewarding job in ops. So that's the individual call signs, and all pilots at Valley have them. So the base commander is Victor 01, for example. If you're flying as part of a formation, then the formation call signs, each squadron owns a stack of formation call signs. And with those call signs, you get an associated radio frequency to talk amongst the formation. And in aircraft like the Hawk T2, you'd also get an air-to-air TACAN plan, so you could get ranging off other aircraft in your formation. So back in my day, we had call signs like Ninja, Stampede, things like that. With the addition of 25 Squadron at Valley, then there will be a number of 25 Squadron call signs that are also there. But the call sign does not relate to the number of aeroplanes. So Ninja on Monday could be a 2-ship, and on Thursday could be a 4-ship. Okay, it doesn't matter. John clarifies, the cockpit in the backseat of an F-18 is slightly stepped. Instructors can do it in training, but my understanding is they don't demo it to the student. They use sims to teach the landing. Okay, cool. Crack on. Craig Boy asked, what was my first aircraft in the Royal Air Force? So as a Royal Air Force officer, my first aircraft was the Tucano, but as a Royal Air Force volunteer reserve person, when I was going through university, I flew the Bulldog at university, and before that, in the Air Cadets, I was the passenger in a Chipmunk, and I did loops and rolls and things like that in a Chipmunk. So take your pick, really.
Okay, Paul. Well, I think we're going to wrap that up because I know you're 3 hours ahead, so it's a bit things to do. But I hope you enjoyed it.
No, I did. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I'm sure our viewers really enjoyed that. Yeah, you can see from the questions coming in. And so if you want to check out Paul's book, just look for the RAF. Was it? The ABC of the RAF. And you can find it on Facebook or go onto Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything should really back to Amazon. And there is absolutely no benefit in emailing me directly, because you can do as it just kind of suggests on the Facebook site, but ultimately it's exactly the same shipping, it's exactly the same cost to send it via Amazon. So probably for your viewers' peace of mind more than anything, order them by Amazon, and then you're protected by them too. So it's that extra little bit of faith and bit of trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. And if you're lucky enough to win the Christmas prize, you'll win a signed book by Paul. So make sure you enter that and give him a like. And Paul, hopefully we can see you back on the show.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks a lot, Mike. Look forward to it. Hopefully I'll be wearing a t-shirt like yours then.
Yeah. All right, well, cheers, guys. We'll see you soon.
All right. Cheers, mate. Bye.